No cussing in front of women or children. Michigan. Imagine this. You're in Michigan, it's cold, your coffee spills, your phone dies, your car won't start. Instinctively, your soul prepares a perfectly crafted swear word, but wait. Somewhere nearby, a woman or a child may exist. And according to Michigan law, that means your mouth must immediately become a Victorian poetry book. Yes, Michigan has an old law that technically makes it illegal to use profane language in front of women or children, not just screaming in anger, not just insults, profanity. The kind of words that come out naturally when you stub your toe on a coffee table designed by a psychopath. This law comes from a time when lawmakers believed women and children were fragile, delicate creatures who might emotionally collapse if they heard a bad word. A single damn could apparently cause society to crumble, crops to fail, and morality to evaporate. So imagine a modern Michigan scenario. A grown adult man drops his groceries in the parking lot. Eggs shatter, milk spills. He opens his mouth to express pain and suddenly remembers there is a toddler in a stroller 30 feet away, and now he has to scream something like, "Oh, fiddlesticks of disappointment." Meanwhile, the child is probably watching YouTube videos where cartoon characters blow up planets. The funniest part, the law doesn't define profane. Is heck illegal? What about dang? What if you whisper it? What if you swear internally but your face shows it externally? Is aggressive eyebrow movement a crime? And how would this law even be enforced? Does a police officer hide behind bushes with a notepad? "Sir, I heard you say a 4-letter word." "But officer, the child was 40 feet away." "Yes, but sound travels." Back when this law was written, swearing was considered a serious moral failure. Today, it's basically punctuation. People swear to express joy, pain, surprise, and sometimes just to fill silence. If this law were enforced today, Michigan prisons would be full of people who drop Legos barefoot. The real comedy is that the law technically still exists, even though it's almost never enforced. It's like an angry ghost from the 1800s, shaking its fist at modern society, screaming, "Watch your language, young man." So if you're ever in Michigan, remember, before you swear, scan the horizon. If a woman, child, or possibly a stroller-shaped object is nearby, switch to creative insults like, "You absolute soggy waffle." It's safer, and apparently more lawful. Adultery is still a felony in Michigan. Now let us talk about a law that feels like it escaped from a dusty church basement. Adultery is still technically a felony in Michigan. Yes. Cheating on your spouse is not just morally messy or relationship ending. It can, on paper, make you a criminal. Jail time, courtrooms, legal consequences, all for sneaking around and forgetting your vows. This law was created during a time when marriage wasn't just a personal relationship. It was a public institution that lawmakers guarded like a national treasure. Cheating wasn't just considered bad behavior. It was seen as an attack on social order, family stability, and possibly the economy. The idea was simple. If people start cheating, marriages fall apart. If marriages fall apart, society collapses. And if society collapses, someone has to explain it to the governor. So Michigan lawmakers decided, you know what'll fix this? Felony charges. Imagine explaining this law to someone today. So why are you in jail? Armed robbery? No. Tax fraud? No. Cheating? Yes. Now here's where it gets funny. Despite being a felony, this law is almost never enforced. Prosecutors usually have better things to do than investigate text messages, secret lunches, and suspicious work trips. Can you imagine the investigation unit? Detective, we found flirting. Flirting isn't enough, isn't? We need full adultery. And what counts as adultery anyway? Is it emotional cheating, physical cheating? What if you just thought about cheating really hard? The law doesn't come with a relationship handbook. Also, if adultery were enforced today, half of reality TV would need legal disclaimers. Dating shows would become crime documentaries. The existence of this law doesn't mean Michigan is secretly arresting people for cheating. It means the law survived because no one bothered to remove it. It's like an embarrassing old Facebook post the state forgot to delete. Still, it creates an amazing mental image. A dramatic courtroom scene where the judge says, "You are charged with adultery," and the defendant responds, "Your Honor, it was complicated." So while this law is legally alive, It's practically a fossil, a reminder of a time when lawmakers believed handcuffs could fix heartbreak. You can't sell your car on a Sunday, Michigan. Sunday is supposed to be a peaceful day, a day of rest, a day of family. And in Michigan, apparently, a day when your car must absolutely not change owners. In many Michigan counties, selling a car on Sunday is illegal. Not stealing a car, not crashing one, simply selling it. You could give someone your kidney on a Sunday, but handing over car keys? Absolutely not. That's where the line is drawn. This law comes from something called blue laws, which were designed to protect Sundays as holy, calm, non-commercial days. Lawmakers believed that buying and selling cars was simply too exciting for the human soul on a Sunday. The engine noise alone might anger the heavens. Imagine the scenario. A man finally finds the perfect buyer for his old car. The price is right. The buyer is ready. The handshake is halfway done, and then someone checks the calendar. Wait, today's Sunday. Suddenly, the mood shifts. Birds stop singing. A church bell rings somewhere in the distance. The sale is cancelled, not because of trust issues, but because the law says take a day off. And what makes this law even funnier is that it doesn't stop people from talking about selling cars on Sunday. You can negotiate, you can admire, you can sit inside the car and make vroom vroom sounds. You just can't officially sell it. The transaction must wait until Monday, like a well-behaved adult. The logic behind this law is ancient. Lawmakers feared that if car sales were allowed on Sundays, dealerships would force employees to work non-stop, robbing them of rest and family time. A noble idea, except now we live in a world where people order groceries, furniture, and entire houses online while wearing pajamas on Sundays. So this law mostly just exists as an inconvenience. It's rarely enforced, but technically real. And if someone really wanted to be dramatic, they could absolutely ruin your Sunday car deal by reminding everyone it's illegal. The law doesn't care if the car is cheap. It doesn't care if it's your only transportation. Sunday is sacred. The car stays with its current owner until Monday, amen. Seducing and corrupting an unmarried woman is illegal. This next law sounds less like legislation and more like the title of a Victorian novel. In Michigan, there is an old law that makes it illegal for a man to seduce and corrupt an unmarried woman. Yes, seduce, corrupt. Words that feel like they belong in a dramatic black and white movie, not a legal code. This law was written during a time when society believed unmarried women needed legal protection from charming men with good hair, smooth voices, and suspicious intentions. Romance was treated like a dangerous activity requiring government supervision. The assumption was simple. If a man seduced a woman outside marriage, he had damaged her reputation, her future, and possibly the honor of her entire family. Therefore, the law stepped in like an angry parent saying, absolutely not. But here's the problem. The law doesn't clearly explain what seduction means. Is it flirting, compliments, holding hands, a well-timed smile? Is buying dinner seduction? What about sending a good morning text? Imagine a courtroom where a prosecutor has to explain this. Your Honor, the defendant used charm. Define charm. He was very smooth. And what exactly is corruption? Is it emotional, moral, spiritual? Did someone read poetry too aggressively? The law also assumes women are passive victims with no agency, as if they're standing around waiting to be corrupted like a computer virus. Modern society would like to politely disagree. Today, this law is basically a legal relic. It's not enforced, not relevant, and not taken seriously. But it still exists, quietly judging modern dating culture from the shadows. If this law were enforced today, dating apps would shut down immediately. First dates would require legal disclaimers. Compliments would need permits. Excuse me, officer, I was not seducing her, I was merely being polite. So while this law remains technically alive, it's about as practical as using a quill pen to send a text message. Still, it's a hilarious reminder that at one point in history, flirting was considered a criminal act. No drunkenness on trains, Michigan. Michigan is perfectly fine with you riding a train. Michigan is also perfectly fine with you drinking alcohol in many places. But combine those two things, and suddenly the law gets nervous. In Michigan, being drunk on a train is illegal. Not disruptive drunk, not loud drunk, just drunk. You could be sitting quietly, minding your own business, staring lovingly at a snack wrapper, and legally, you're a problem. This law comes from a time when trains were not cozy commuter vehicles. They were loud, dangerous machines filled with coal smoke, sharp edges, and people who hadn't slept properly in years. A drunk passenger wasn't just annoying, they were a safety hazard with legs. Lawmakers imagined a scenario where a tipsy traveler decides to explore the train, stumbles into machinery, or tries to help by pulling random levers. So they did what lawmakers do best, banned the entire concept. Now imagine a modern commuter train. A guy sits down quietly. He smells faintly like beer. He's not talking, he's not singing, he's not bothering anyone. But legally, his crime is existing while intoxicated on rails. How would this even be enforced? Sir, are you drunk? No. Walk in a straight line. This is a moving train. And what defines drunk? 1 drink, 2, a strong cough syrup, a suspiciously enthusiastic energy drink? The funniest part is that this law doesn't care about intent. You don't need to cause chaos, you don't need to yell. Simply being drunk is enough. The train doesn't want your vibes. Of course, in reality, this law is rarely enforced unless someone is clearly causing problems. But technically, the law is still there, sitting quietly, watching passengers like an old conductor muttering, "Not on my train." So if you're riding a Michigan train and feeling a little too cheerful, maybe save the celebration for after you arrive. Because according to the law, trains are for sober thoughts only. Women cannot cut their own hair without permission. Old law. This law sounds so unreal it feels like satire, but at one point, Michigan law suggested that women needed their husband's permission to cut their own hair. Yes, their own hair. The thing literally growing out of their own head. This law comes from an era where marriage turned women into legal extensions of their husbands. Once married, a woman's independence apparently stopped at the scalp. Hair was considered a symbol of beauty, femininity, and, somehow, family honor. The idea was that a woman cutting her hair without permission was an act of rebellion, not just against her husband, but against society itself. Short hair, clearly a threat. Imagine how this law would work in real life. Honey, I'm thinking of trimming my bangs. Absolutely not. But it's in my eyes. The law is the law. The law never explained how permission was granted. Was it verbal, written, notarized? Could a husband revoke permission halfway through a haircut? And what if a woman was unmarried, or widowed, or just didn't feel like asking? The absurdity multiplies quickly. Today, of course, this law is completely outdated and unenforceable. Women cut their hair whenever they want, however they want, for whatever reason they want, and society somehow survived. But the existence of this law is a powerful reminder of how deeply control was embedded in old legal systems. Hair wasn't just hair, it was territory. If this law were enforced today, salons would need legal departments. Barbers would ask, "Do you have your husband's consent form?" Pixie cuts would require witnesses. Thankfully, this law now exists only as a historical embarrassment, a legal fossil, a reminder that freedom sometimes had to fight its way past scissors. It's illegal to kill a dog with a gun, except while hunting. Michigan law has a very specific opinion about dogs, guns, and extremely bad decisions. According to the law, you cannot kill a dog with a gun unless it happens during lawful hunting. Not with a gun, not accidentally, not just once. The law is crystal clear. Dogs are not targets. This law exists because at one point in history, people were shooting dogs for reasons that ranged from, "It was bothering my livestock," to "I didn't like its vibe." Michigan lawmakers decided this was officially unhinged behavior and stepped in. The interesting part is the exception, lawful hunting, which immediately raises questions. Are people hunting dogs? No. Absolutely not. The exception exists because hunting accidents happen, and lawmakers had to acknowledge reality while still protecting dogs. But the wording makes it sound like there was a serious discussion at some point. Should people be allowed to shoot dogs? No. What if it's an accident? Fine. What if they really want to? Absolutely not. The law doesn't ban harming dogs entirely. It specifically focuses on firearms. That tells you something about how common guns were and how necessary it was to say out loud in writing, "Please stop shooting dogs." In modern times, this law is taken seriously. Animal cruelty laws are enforced, and harming a dog can lead to serious penalties. Unlike many weird laws, this one still has real teeth. Still, the phrasing feels strange. It's oddly specific, like the law had a very personal backstory. Somewhere in Michigan history, someone did something so ridiculous that lawmakers said, "We need a law for this, immediately." So the takeaway is simple. In Michigan, dogs are not targets. Not ever. The law doesn't care about your excuse. If you're holding a gun and there's a dog involved, the answer is no. Honestly, this might be one of the most reasonable laws on the list. Weirdly worded, but solid. You can't tie your alligator to a fire hydrant, yes, this is real. And no, Michigan is not known for its alligators. Yet somewhere in Michigan, StillLegal code is a law that effectively says, do not tie your alligator to a fire hydrant. Which immediately raises the most important question: why did this need to be said? Laws are usually reactions. They don't appear randomly. They exist because something happened. And this law suggests that at some point, someone thought it was acceptable to secure an alligator to public infrastructure. Maybe it was a traveling circus. Maybe it was a very irresponsible pet owner. Maybe someone just had a weird Tuesday. Fire hydrants are for emergencies. They are not reptile parking spots. Imagine firefighters arriving at a burning building only to find a full-grown alligator calmly guarding the hydrant like, "This is my hydrant now." The law doesn't explain what happens if you do tie an alligator to a hydrant. It doesn't explain how big the alligator is allowed to be. It just says don't. The existence of this law is hilarious because it assumes you might own an alligator in Michigan, a state famous for snow, lakes, and aggressive winters. But laws are often copied from other places or written broadly to cover every possible scenario, no matter how unlikely. And in this case, lawmakers decided to prepare for reptilian chaos. Today, this law exists mostly as a fun legal trivia fact. No one is patrolling the streets looking for hydrant-tied alligators, but if it ever happens again, Michigan is ready. So if you ever find yourself in Michigan with an alligator and no leash, just remember, the hydrant is not an option. Begging without a license is illegal. In Michigan, you can ask someone for directions, advice, or their Netflix password, but asking for money? That might require paperwork. In some Michigan cities, begging or panhandling without a license is illegal. Yes, a license for asking. This law comes from the idea that public order must be maintained, and that people asking for money might somehow disrupt the delicate balance of society. Apparently, unlicensed begging was considered more dangerous than licensed begging. Imagine the conversation. "Excuse me, sir, can I have some change? Do you have a permit for that request?" The logic was that cities wanted to regulate where and how people could ask for money, often under the excuse of safety, traffic flow, or public comfort. But in practice, it creates a strange situation where poverty itself becomes a paperwork issue. How do you even apply for a begging license? What's the test? Demonstrate proper begging posture. Eye contact, too much or too little. Tone of voice, desperate but polite. Modern courts have challenged many of these laws, especially when they clash with free speech rights. Asking for help is, legally speaking, still speech. But the existence of this law shows how uncomfortable society can be with visible poverty. Instead of solving the problem, it tries to regulate the act of asking. So if you're ever in Michigan and feel like asking for spare change, remember, the law once expected you to do it professionally. Married women couldn't apply for credit alone. Old law. At one point in Michigan, a married woman could not independently apply for credit. Not because she lacked income, not because she was irresponsible, simply because she was married. The logic was simple and wildly unfair. Marriage legally fused a woman's financial identity with her husband's. Her money, shared. Her debt, shared. Her independence, not invited. Banks treated married women like accessories. No husband, no credit. Imagine explaining this today. Yes, I have a job, savings, and excellent credit. Cool, but where's your husband? This law existed nationwide in various forms and was defended as protecting families, which is a polite way of saying controlling women's finances. The absurdity becomes clear when you realize unmarried women could apply for credit, but once married, suddenly became financially suspicious. Thankfully, laws like this were dismantled over time, but their existence reminds us how recently financial independence was denied to half the population. Today, this law survives only as a legal fossil, and a reminder that progress wasn't automatic. It had to be fought for. Throwing a bottle at someone is a serious crime. In Michigan, throwing a bottle at someone isn't just rude, it's a serious criminal offense. It doesn't matter if the bottle is empty. It doesn't matter if you missed. The act itself can land you in real legal trouble. Why? Because bottles become weapons very quickly. Glass breaks, injuries happen. And history proved that people were way too comfortable turning bottles into projectiles. So lawmakers stepped in and said, enough. This law doesn't care if you were angry, drunk, joking, or just tossing it. Once a bottle leaves your hand toward another human being, the law gets involved. It's one of those laws that sounds obvious now, but it exists because people kept doing it. You can't sell cars directly to consumers. Tesla problem. Michigan law restricts car manufacturers from selling vehicles directly to consumers. This means companies like Tesla can just open a showroom and sell you a car the normal way. Why? Because dealerships. The law was created to protect traditional car dealerships from being crushed by manufacturers. Lawmakers believed middlemen needed protection. So now, instead of buying a car simply, customers navigate a maze of legal workarounds, online loopholes, and dealership politics. It's capitalism, with extra steps. Fortune-telling for money is illegal. In Michigan, charging money to tell fortunes is illegal. Reading palms for fun, fine. Predicting the future for cash, criminal. The law assumes fortune-telling is deception by default. If you're charging money, you're probably lying. Ironically, plenty of other professions predict the future for money. Stocks, weather, economics, but psychics crossed the line. So if you ever tell someone their future in Michigan, make sure it's free. Ticket scalping is illegal. Selling event tickets at a higher price than face value can be illegal in Michigan. The goal was fairness, preventing people from buying tickets just to resell them for profit. But in the age of online resales, this law feels like it's trying to fight the internet with a paper sign. Still, legally speaking, Michigan once said, "Enjoy the game, not the hustle."